I was wiping down the counter after dinner when Sophie asked me, "Why do we even go up there if they don't like you?" Her voice was quiet, but it cut straight through me. That was the thing about Sophie. She didn't waste words. At 14, she already saw through people faster than most adults. I leaned on the island and stared at her across the kitchen. Her eyes looked too much like Emily's. "My name's Connor. I'm 42, live in La Jolla, California. I write novels for a living, real ones, the kind you find in airport bookstores, but none of that matters half as much as being Sophie's dad. Emily died 4 years ago. Car crash. One driver ran a red light, and that was it. I was still mid-list back then, working the night shift at a gas station just to keep us going. Her death forced me to stop drifting and start writing with purpose. The first book I published after she died hit number 3 on the Times list. That was the moment I knew I had to make this life mean something. For Sophie, for Emily, for myself. Our days now are mostly peaceful. I take Sophie to school, write till noon, pick her up, and we walk the cliffs in the afternoon if the air's good. I've got asthma, bad asthma. A couple triggers can put me in the ER fast, ragweed being the worst. Quick note, before we go on, share which city or country you're watching from. My family knows this, of course. They just never care. They live an hour up the coast in Newport Beach. Big villa, bigger egos. My father, Charles, still walks around like a military colonel, barking orders and expecting obedience. My mother, Margaret, acts polite, but spins guilt like it's an Olympic event. And Brian, my older brother, never got over the fact that I became successful while he's still stuck, managing failed startups and blaming everyone but himself. They've never forgiven me for leaving home young or for not needing their approval to make a life. These days, the phone rang just as I was setting my alarm for the next morning. I saw the caller ID and sighed. Mom. Nothing good ever came from a late-night call from Margaret. I picked up. "Hey. Oh, good, you're still up," she said, too cheery, too fake. "Your father and I are planning our 40th anniversary. Just family, small, tasteful. We want you and Sophie to be there." "No kidding," I said. "Didn't think you were the celebrating type." She ignored the jab. "It's important, Connor. We've already got the invitations going out, but I wanted to ask personally. Your brother will be there. We'll have live music, a beautiful dinner in the garden. It'll mean a lot." "To who, exactly?" "I'm swamped with deadlines," I said, "and Sophie's got school stuff." She didn't miss a beat. "You always make time for what matters. Don't be dramatic. It's just one evening." I could hear Dad in the background, barking something about the wine list. That clenched it. I was already boxed in. "All right," I said, jaw tight. "We'll come." Sophie looked up from the couch as I hung up. "Was that Grandma?" "Yeah," I said. "40th wedding anniversary, this weekend. They want us at the villa." She tilted her head, cautious. "Do they actually want us there? Or is it for show?" Smart kid. "They said it's a family thing," I muttered. "I'm guessing we're the props." She hesitated. "Do you want to go?" "No," I said, "but I think you might." She nodded slowly. "Kind of, I want to see it. I want to know what it is they really want." Right then I knew she was picking up on something I'd tried to ignore. The gut feeling I'd carried for years, that they never invited us just to spend time together. There was always an angle, a setup, a string attached. Brian was the worst about it. Last Christmas, he cornered me in the garage, asking if my next book advance would hit 6 figures again. The way he asked, like it was community money, like I owed them something. Mom would call my books cute little projects in front of guests. Dad once told me real men didn't sit behind a keyboard all day. They built legacies. Then he asked if I'd fund his latest real estate idea. Still, I packed the next day like I was heading into enemy territory. Not just socks and chargers, I packed my rescue inhaler, my backup inhaler, and the prescription form, just in case I needed an emergency refill. Their garden was basically a pollen bomb. Last time I was there in spring, I spent the night wheezing in Sophie's lap, too lightheaded to speak. As I folded my shirts, Sophie sat on the edge of my bed, quiet. "You think they'll have the ragweed out again?" she asked. I didn't answer right away. "I'll be careful," I finally said. "Just don't eat the seafood. You remember last time." She gave a soft laugh, but her eyes stayed serious. "I'll keep my eyes open." I looked at her. "You always do." We zipped our bags together that evening. No part of me felt excited. Guilt got me into that car. Habit made me drive. But deep down, I knew something about this invite didn't feel right. The timing, the tone, the pressure. None of it sat well. Still, I let Sophie climb in and buckle up. I loaded the bags, locked the front door, and told myself it was just one night. One dinner, one performance. How bad could it be? I took a long breath and patted my jacket pocket for the inhaler. Twice. We pulled into the circular driveway just before 5. The house looked like a luxury catalog. Fresh paint, warm lights in every window, soft jazz spilling from the backyard speakers. But the second we stepped out of the car, I knew something was off. The air smelled like lavender, but too strong, like someone sprayed the whole garden trying to cover something up. Everything felt staged, polished, like we'd walked into a live photo shoot and were expected to smile on cue. Mom came out first, arms wide like she was greeting a soldier back from war. "Connor! Sophie!" "Oh, look at you two, so handsome, so grown up." She kissed my cheek, then Sophie's, holding her hands a second too long. "That dress looks expensive," she whispered. "Your father will be thrilled you didn't show up in jeans." "Hi, Grandma," Sophie said, stiff. "Your room's upstairs, sweetie. I had the housekeeper freshen everything." Then Charles appeared at the door, drink in hand. "There he is, the wordsmith. Didn't think you'd tear yourself away from your laptop long enough to join the living. 40 years, Dad. Couldn't miss it." He clapped my back a little too hard. "Still writing those murder thrillers?" "Psychological suspense," I said. He winked at a server walking by. "Same thing, I just skipped to the ending." Sophie shot me a look, like, how do you even talk to these people? Inside, Brian was already waiting with 2 drinks in hand. "Brought you bourbon, just how you like it." I took the glass, but didn't drink. He slid in next to me, voice low. "So, tell me, what's next? I heard your last book hit some crazy number in foreign rights." "Still writing," I said. He laughed. "Yeah, but what's the advance like these days? 7 figures yet?" I stepped back. "I'm here for the party, Brian, not an audit." He raised his hands. "Just curious, bro. People ask." Dinner wasn't for another hour, so everyone wandered the garden like it was Versailles. My mother floated from group to group, giving a personal tour. "Look at those lilies, imported from Oregon. And these are brand new, arrived this afternoon." She pointed to a bundle still wrapped at the edge of the path. Pale green leaves, thin stalks. My throat tickled just looking at them. Sophie noticed me touch my neck. "You okay?" she asked. "Yeah," I said. "Just dry air." Her eyes darted toward the wrapped bundles, then toward the servers. One was standing near our bags, pretending not to look. She tugged my sleeve. "Dad, check your stuff." I turned toward the patio where our luggage had been set down. My inhaler was in the side pocket of my overnight bag, the pocket I had checked twice before we left. I took one step toward it. "Hey," Brian popped in front of me, all teeth. "Come meet my new business partner. He's dying to talk film rights with you." "I'll be right there." He grabbed my shoulder. "Come on, just 2 minutes." I tried to look past him. The server by my bag had walked off. "Connor," Brian said, his voice tighter now. "Don't be rude." He nudged me toward the far end of the patio. My heart rate kicked up, fast and sharp. I looked over my shoulder. Sophie was still by the flower beds, eyes locked on me. She mouthed, "Go check." I nodded, turned, and tried to break away. Brian stepped in again. "Seriously, man, just 2 minutes. Don't make it weird." I felt cornered, but in the pit of my stomach, something was twisting. I gave in for the moment and let him lead me into the crowd. But my eyes stayed on that bag. And Sophie's never left mine. Brian was... Not everyone has the discipline for that. His eyes landed on me at that last word. A few guests chuckled politely. My jaw locked. Mom smiled sweetly. "We're just so proud of our boys," she added. "Both successful in their own ways." Brian smirked. "Some of us work for a living." Sophie stiffened beside me. I laid my hand on her shoulder, but she was already shaking her head, lips pressed tight. I could tell. She'd had enough. Then it happened fast. She gasped, doubled over, and her chair clattered against the patio stones. "Dad, it hurts, my stomach," she groaned, clutching her side. I was on my feet in a heartbeat. "Sophie!" Guests turned, whispers cutting through the music. Mom jumped up, all performance again. "Oh dear! Someone call an ambulance." "I'll take her," I said, crouching beside Sophie. "She can't wait." Dad stepped in front of me, hand raised. "Connor, calm down. Sit her up. Let's not make a scene. She's in pain, Dad. Move. We'll call the doctor, Mom said quickly. There's no need to. No. I lifted Sophie to her feet. She leaned against me, shaking. I'm driving her myself. Brian blocked the path to the driveway. You don't even know what's wrong yet. The ambulance. Get out of the way, Brian. My voice came out lower than I expected. Dead calm. He hesitated. Sophie cried out louder, clutching her stomach again. Please, Dad. Please, just go. That was it. I pushed past them, harder than I meant to. Mom gasped. A few guests stared. I didn't care. I half-carried Sophie through the gate, her weight heavy against my arm. The night air hit me, thick with that same lavender mask scent, but under it, something else. Familiar. Bitter. Then I saw the truck. It was parked by the side of the villa, two men unloading long green bundles from the back, ragweed, piles of it. The same stuff that could close my lungs in minutes. The same plant my family knew to keep away from me since I was a kid. For a second I couldn't move. My skin went cold. Sophie tugged my sleeve weakly. Dad, she whispered, we need to go. I helped her into the car, slammed the door, and threw it into reverse. The villa lights blurred as we pulled out of the driveway. My chest tightened, part panic, part disbelief. The inhaler, gone. The ragweed, delivered tonight. Brian, stalling me. None of it felt random anymore. We turned onto the main road, and I looked over at Sophie. She'd straightened up, breathing steady, no sign of pain now. Her eyes were wet but focused. Are you okay? I asked, voice rough. She nodded slowly, then looked straight ahead. I don't think this was an accident, she said. My hands clenched the steering wheel. I didn't answer, because I already knew she was right. I turned off the highway and pulled onto a quiet side road lined with eucalyptus trees. The kind of place you stop when your head's spinning and your daughter just told you someone might be trying to kill you. I threw it in the park and looked at her. Tell me the truth. Were you... Grandpa handed something small to that server near the kitchen. Looked like cash. I swallowed hard. And Brian? He wouldn't leave you alone. He kept pulling you away every time you looked back at the bags. He did it on purpose. I know he did. I leaned forward, arms on the steering wheel, heart pounding in my ears. I didn't want to believe it, but the puzzle pieces lined up too clean to ignore. Missing inhaler, ragweed truck, stalling tactics, and now cash exchanges and whispers. You think they were trying to set me up? I asked. She stared at me, eyes wide and dead serious. Yes, I think they were trying to trigger an attack, and I think they wanted you too far from your inhaler when it happened. I couldn't speak. My brain raced, every memory of past visits flooding in. Dad handing me a drink laced with something that made me drowsy, Brian snooping in my office during the holidays, Mom always pressing me for financial details just in case. I brushed it all off, for years. Wrote it off as family dysfunction. But this wasn't dysfunction. This was premeditated. You shouldn't have had to fake anything, I muttered. You shouldn't have had to save me. You wouldn't leave, she said. You were trying so hard to be the bigger person. But they don't care, Dad. They never did. The silence in the car stretched too long. I finally looked over at her. She was hugging her knees to her chest, her voice barely a whisper now. I don't want to lose you too, she said. You're all I have. If something happened to you... That gutted me, worse than anything else. I reached over, grabbed her hand. You won't. I swear to you, Sophie. I won't let them near us again. Promise? She asked, not blinking. Promise. For a moment, neither of us moved. The trees outside rustled in the breeze, and I could hear my pulse pounding in my throat. Everything inside me twisted. Guilt, fear, fury. I'd spent my whole life trying to prove I wasn't like them, trying to outgrow their crap without burning bridges. But the bridge was already on fire, and my kid saw the flames before I did. I let go of her hand, reached into the glove box, and pulled out the spare inhaler I kept hidden there, just in case. I took a slow, steady puff and leaned back in my seat. You okay now? Sophie asked. Yeah, I said, but I'm done accommodating. I didn't sleep that night. The weight of everything kept me awake, replaying bits of the evening, piecing together the lies and the manipulations. I couldn't believe it had taken me this long to see it. I couldn't believe I'd let them get this close. The first thing I did when the sun came up was grab my phone. I didn't even bother with the coffee. I called James, my lawyer, the one person who's had my back since I first got the book deal. He'd helped me navigate the mess with my family before, but this was a whole different level. It rang 3 times before he picked up, groggy but sharp. Connor, what's going on? I need to talk to you, now. Something's happened. I think they were after my money. James was quiet for a moment. What? Long story short, they tried to kill me last night. There was no reaction at first, just silence on the other end. Then he spoke, his voice steady. What do you mean? I exhaled, the words coming out in a rush. My family, they set me up. Planned to provoke an asthma attack. They knew I couldn't breathe without my inhaler. I think they were trying to hurt me, or worse. Wow, he said. All right, we need to move fast. I'll get the ball rolling on a trust, but we're going to need to lock down your assets immediately. I'll handle everything. No more waiting. I felt a rush of relief at hearing him take control. James had a way of making chaos seem manageable. What about them? Charles, Margaret, Brian? You need a restraining order, he said, his voice sharp. Especially with Sophie. They've crossed a line. This is about more than money now, Connor. This is about your safety. And Sophie's. I didn't hesitate. Do it. We talked for another 10 minutes, laying out the details of the irrevocable trust and how we could protect Sophie's future. He'd take care of the legal side. I just needed to get it signed and finalized. I ended the call and sat in the silence of the kitchen, looking at my phone. The same phone I'd ignored for years, even when I knew my family was trying to tear me down, take what they thought was owed to them. The same phone that had held texts and calls, silent reminders that I had been a pawn in their game for far too long. Sophie was in the hallway, standing just outside the kitchen, listening quietly. Her eyes were heavy with the weight of everything that had unfolded. I could see the worry etched in her face, but she wasn't afraid. She wasn't scared anymore. Dad? Her voice was soft, uncertain. I turned to face her. Yeah? She stepped into the kitchen, folding her arms. Will they come after us again? The question hit me hard. I wanted to tell her no. I wanted to say everything was going to be fine. But I couldn't lie to her, not after everything that had happened. If I can help it, I said, my voice low and steady, they won't. We're going to make sure they can't. She nodded slowly, eyes wide but trusting. Good, she said, and then turned to leave, but paused at the door. Dad? I raised an eyebrow. Yeah? Just don't let them win, okay? A small smile tugged at my lips. I won't. The weight of the situation was still there, but in that moment, I felt something shift inside me. We were taking control. The trust, the legal steps, the restraining orders, they were all part of it. But more than that, I wasn't going to let fear guide me anymore. I wasn't going to let my family push us around. The next few hours passed in a blur. James sent over the legal paperwork for the trust, which I signed in a daze. It was official. Everything, all of it, was now under Sophie's name. My royalties, the house, the investments, everything I'd built, it was all locked away until she turned 18. I was doing this for her, protecting her future, protecting us. By the time I hung up with James, the restraining orders were in motion. My family wouldn't be able to come near us again, not legally. It was done. Sophie came back into the kitchen around noon, holding her books. Are we good now? She asked, her voice tentative. I stood up, walked over to her, and pulled her into a hug. I didn't know if everything was truly good, but for the first time in a long while, I felt like we were on the right path. We're good, I said, and for the first time in years, I meant it. The phone rang just after dinner. I knew exactly who it was before I even saw the caller ID, Margaret. I let it ring twice before picking it up, keeping my voice flat. Connor, she said, trying to sound all sweetness and concern. I'm so confused about everything. You've been acting like we did something to you. Why would you think we'd want to hurt you? I felt my blood pressure spike. She was playing the game already, pretending like none of it had happened, like I was the one who'd overreacted. You know exactly what I'm talking about, I said, keeping it steady, even though I was so close to snapping. The ragweed, the inhaler, the way you and Dad have been treating me for years. Don't act like it's a misunderstanding. Oh, Connor, please, she said, voice laced with false sympathy. The ragweed. Well, that was a mistake. You know how your father gets when he wants to impress his guests with the flowers. And as for the inhaler, he must have misplaced it. It happens. You're always so quick to jump to conclusions. I bit down on my teeth. A misplaced inhaler? Mom, I checked that bag 3 times before I left. It was taken, and you know it. She sighed heavily, like I was being unreasonable. You really think we'd go that far? To hurt you? You're our son. We've always supported you, Connor. Cut the act, Margaret. My voice was ice now. If you think I'm buying that, you're as delusional as Dad. There was a long pause on the other end of the line, like she was deciding whether to push harder or back off. Finally, I heard Charles's voice, loud and clear, snatching the phone from her. You're making a scene over nothing, he said, the usual cold authority dripping from his words. There's no drama, Connor. This is just your paranoia. All this about us trying to hurt you, fabricating something out of thin air. It's disgraceful. You've dishonored the family with these accusations. I clenched my fist. I'm not making anything up, Dad. You and Mom, you've been doing this for years. You've used me, used my success to get what you wanted. I won't let you do it to Sophie. Well, then you're no longer part of this family. You've made your bed, Charles said, his voice hard and cold. I won't let you turn this into some kind of vendetta. I laughed bitterly. I'm done with you, Dad. I'm done with all of you. There was a long, stunned silence. The silence I'd been waiting for. The moment when they realized I wasn't playing along anymore. I could feel the weight of it pressing down on me, but it felt like a release at the same time. I was done being their punching bag. I've taken legal steps to protect myself and Sophie, I said, my tone sharp. There's an irrevocable trust in place, and I've filed a restraining order against all of you. You won't be able to contact me or Sophie ever again. So do me a favor and stay out of our lives. Another silence, thicker this time. I could hear Charles trying to speak, but the words got caught in his throat, his ego too fragile to handle it. I'll be calling my lawyer, he finally said, but there was no conviction in his voice. Do whatever you want, I said, my tone final. It's over. I hung up without waiting for a response, my hand still gripping the phone so hard it hurt. I leaned back against the kitchen counter, letting out a long breath I hadn't realized I was holding. The house felt different now, quieter, like a door had closed, a chapter I wasn't coming back to. Just then, Sophie walked in, her footsteps light but steady. She had overheard the last part of the conversation, and I could see the question in her eyes before she even spoke. Is it over? She asked quietly, her voice small but sure. I looked at her, my chest tight. For good, I said, the words heavy, but I meant them. It's over. She gave me a small smile, but there was no relief in her eyes. She was strong, stronger than I was, I think. I pulled her into a hug, and for the first time in ages, I wasn't afraid. I wasn't worried about the next call or the next scheme. We had a future again, and no one was going to take that from us. The weeks after we cut my family out were quiet. Too quiet at first, and then, in a way I couldn't explain, it felt peaceful. Sophie and I settled into a new rhythm. No more pretending to be okay with forced family dinners. No more phone calls that I ignored, but always knew would come. It was just us now, just Sophie and me, figuring it out day by day. High school started for her right after everything with my family settled. She was nervous at first, but she didn't show it. She joined the book club, found a group of friends who loved the same things she did. Books, writing, random Netflix shows, the things that made her laugh like I hadn't heard in a long time. She had this new confidence in her step. One afternoon, after her first week, she showed me a short story she'd written. I was blown away. It was good, real good. Better than I expected for a 14-year-old who had barely picked up a pencil outside of homework. The voice in her writing felt like a mix of us both, sharp, emotional, and with a dry humor that made me chuckle. I told her the truth. You've got something here, Sophie. She just smiled like it wasn't a big deal. I just wrote what I felt. You know, like you do with your books. That got me. I didn't realize how much of my work she had been watching, how closely she'd been paying attention all these years. She wasn't just my daughter, she was turning into my biggest fan. A few weeks later, I found myself at the high school for a parent-teacher night. I hadn't been to one of those in a while, and I was surprised how normal it felt, walking through the halls with other parents. But when I reached the literature classroom, I wasn't expecting what happened next. Harper Bennett, Sophie's literature teacher, greeted me with a smile. She was tall, blonde, and carried herself with an easy confidence that instantly put me at ease. We introduced ourselves, and then she started talking about Sophie, how smart she was, how talented. I could tell she was genuine. There was a warmth in her that made the conversation flow without effort. As she spoke about Sophie's progress, I realized she wasn't just doing her job. She was passionate about it. She cared, really cared about her students. It was clear in her eyes, the way she talked about every book, every essay, like it mattered. It reminded me of why I loved writing, because it meant something, because stories mattered. We talked a little more, and before I knew it, the conversation had shifted from Sophie's grades to a longer discussion about literature, our favorite authors, what made a story resonate, the way certain books changed us. There was an instant connection. I found myself laughing more than I had in months. And Harper, she just got it. Got me too. It was easy, comfortable. After the meeting, as I walked back to the car, I realized something I hadn't let myself think about in years. I felt a spark again, something that wasn't just about Sophie or the past, something more. Sophie had noticed too. When I picked her up that afternoon, she didn't waste any time. "You like her, don't you?" I froze, a little surprised. "What?" Harper had been nice, sure, but I wasn't sure what to think of it just yet. It was too soon, right? "You're smiling," Sophie said with a grin. "I've seen you like that before." I gave a short laugh. "I'm just being friendly, Soph, that's all." She shrugged. "She's nice. You should ask her out." I blinked. "Sophie, She's cool. I like her. Mom would too." Her voice softened, and I felt a lump in my throat. "It's okay, Dad." It hit me hard the way she said it. She was right. I missed Emily, and I always would. But that didn't mean I had to close myself off completely. Love could come back into a broken heart, even if it looked different than before. I wasn't the same guy I was when Emily was alive, but that didn't mean I couldn't start to feel again. The next few weeks passed in a quiet blur. Dinners at home with Sophie, talking about books and writing, sharing stories. Harper joined us for a few beach walks. I didn't know if anything would come of it, but it was nice. The three of us, Sophie, me, and Harper, beginning something honest, something ours. No pretenses, no fake smiles. Just us, living in the present. And for the first time in years, I let myself believe we might actually be okay. A year had passed since I'd cut off my family, since I'd finally stopped letting them play their games. Sophie had grown into a confident, smart young woman, and together, the three of us had started something honest, something ours. We were walking along the beach, the sun hanging low in the sky, casting long shadows on the sand. Sophie, now 15, had her hand tucked in mine. Harper walked beside us, her smile warm and easy. It felt natural, like we'd always been here, together. Sophie stooped down, picking up a small, smooth pebble from the wet sand. She held it in her hand for a moment, studying it, and then tossed it into the waves. It skipped twice before sinking beneath the surface. "I think Mom would be proud of us," Sophie said quietly, her voice barely audible over the rush of the tide. The words hit me harder than I expected. My throat tightened, and for a second, I couldn't speak. I hadn't thought much about Emily in a while, not in the way I used to. But hearing Sophie say that, it reminded me of everything she'd been through, everything we'd both survived. I pulled Sophie close, wrapping my arm around her shoulders, feeling the familiar weight of her beside me, solid and real. Harper stepped closer, and without thinking, I pulled her into the hug too. We stood there for a moment, just the three of us, the ocean stretching out in front of us, the sun dipping lower, painting the sky in shades of pink and orange. Sophie leaned her head against my chest. "It feels right," she whispered. I nodded. "Yeah, it does." Harper's voice was soft as she spoke, her words a quiet promise. "Love, given time, can mend us." I looked down at her, my chest tight, and I believed her, because I was living proof of it. I'd been broken, betrayed, stuck in a place where the past had weighed me down. But now, standing there, in that moment, I knew something had changed. I had changed. Sophie pulled away from me just enough to look up at the two of us, a smile on her face that made me feel lighter than I'd been in years. We were a family by choice, held together by loyalty and love. That was enough. The wind picked up, ruffling our hair. But I wasn't afraid anymore. Whatever storms came our way, we'd face them together, as a real family. What would you have done in my place?